So now y'all come into my kitchen. This is Cooking Today. Hi, welcome to Cooking Today. 'Tis the season. It's almost here. It is almost here. Christmas is almost here. Do you have all your shopping done? I don't have any, not really. I have had things going on this year and I feel like I am super behind, which generally I love the night where you sit and you wrap and you do all kinds of things, you know, and watch Christmas movies, and I am just behind this season. Does anybody else feel behind? Well, I hope you're on top of things because it is on us. Christmas is upon us. That is for sure. Oh my goodness. One of the things that I love about Christmas, and of course we talk about this all the time, is the food. And you cannot come to my house at Christmas without company pound cake sitting on the counter. It is something that I have on my counter at all times. It can be made ahead. It actually gets better as it sits. And I bake it in this giant pound cake pan, this big boy. It's an 18 cup from my friends at Nordic Ware. And y'all, I'm just telling you, it feeds a jillion people. And at my house, you know, I kind of consider pound cake as the kind of like a little coffee cake where you can eat it for dessert, but then it's absolutely acceptable to eat it for breakfast too. Wait till you see how much sugar and treats are going into this guy, but we eat it for breakfast. It is delicious. It is beautiful. It feeds a crowd. It can be made ahead. So what's not to love about this pound cake? Not much. So let me tell you what we're doing first. And then I'll tell you a couple more things about this recipe that are kind of fun. I have a cup of butter, unsalted. That's 2 sticks, unsalted butter in my mixer. And it is absolutely room temperature, like overnight room temperature. And it's really working hard to get it all mixed up and incorporated, and that's what we want. So we have our 2 sticks of butter. It's working it, working it, working it, working it, working it. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Okay, our 2 sticks of unsalted butter, completely room temperature. And then I threw in on top of it 3 cups of sugar, which is why my mixer is working real hard to kind of get that. It's kind of thick right now. And what we want to do is we want to let our mixer work and work and work. And eventually we're going to get incorporated. And then we're going to turn our speed up a little bit higher. And we're going to whip, whip, whip our butter and our sugar until it is extremely smooth. It should be light. A lot of times people shortcut this particular step, and it affects the texture of your cake completely. And so you really need to spend some time. Here we go. We're smoothing that a little bit. A little bit, a little bit, a little bit at a time. So everything is getting nice and incorporated. It kind of works it at the beginning, and then we want to just mix, mix, mix our butter and our sugar until it's really, really light. It should be less grainy. That's what we're hoping for, and you'll get a really great cake. Now, let me tell you while we're working on this should go for a couple of minutes. It's that important of a step. So that is one of our #1 take-homes. I'm going to give you some baking tips that will be great for your season and beyond as we go. One of them is never shortchange creaming your butter and your sugar. Okay, now, this particular recipe for company pound cake is in my cookbook. It's on page 189. I will show it to you, and let me tell you about it. I have been making this pound cake for years. I have a friend that made a pound cake that was similar to it, and she treated me one time, and she held real close to that recipe, and she wouldn't share it, and which is fine. I mean, some recipes are just your recipes, and you don't want to let go of them. So I worked and worked and worked to find a recipe that I felt like tasted like it, felt like it, lifted my heart and filled my soul like that one did. And I have come up with it. And sure enough, I made it for so many people that people started to say, I want the recipe. And I did just like she did. And I was like, I don't want to give it up. I don't want to give it up. I don't want everybody in the world to know how to make it. But Here it is. I put it in my cookbook for you because it was time to let go of the secret, because I'm telling you that this company pound cake recipe will make your life better. It really will. And for your holiday season, this is the best. My sister-in-law requests it. My kids request it. My kids' friends ask for it. So I actually know that one of our little neighbor friends, when she comes home for college, that if she finds out we've got a company pound cake, she will be here. She will be here, and she will be requesting a piece for herself. Now, we're going to turn this on low. We've got it nice and fluffy, very combined. One at a time, I'm going to add 6 eggs, and we're going to just add one and incorporate on low. Add another, incorporate on low. Add another, incorporate on low. So that's the way you want to add your eggs. One at a time and incorporate on low. We have nice fluffy butter and sugar. So we're getting good solid baking tips. When we come back, we're going to start adding in our flour. There's a special flour in this one. So lots of baking tips. Must have recipe for your holiday season. Come back. This is Cooking Today. Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. I'm making my must-have pound cake for the holiday season. I call it company pound cake because if there's company at my house, there is pound cake. Isn't that a great name for it? I have creamed my butter and my sugar until it was nice and light and fluffy. Don't shortchange that step. It's super important. And then one at a time on low, I incorporated 6 eggs that were also room temperature. It always helps when you're baking, unless absolutely specified in the recipe, it is important for your baking ingredients to be room temperature, okay? And not just 20 minutes on the counter or a trip home from the grocery store to your counter. Room temperature. Oftentimes it can take multiple hours. Sometimes it might even take overnight with your butter and your cream cheese. Cream cheese is not in this recipe. That was just a little bonus tip. So on low, we've mixed in our eggs, and now you want to keep your shield handy because you are going to definitely want to put that in here in just a minute. And I used it when I was doing my butter and my sugar because at the beginning, you know, when it's kind of working to incorporate, sometimes it will throw some little sugary bits. I mean, there are worse things to throw, right? Who doesn't love sugary bits? Okay, so we're adding into our pound cake, our batter here, a cup of whole sour cream. Don't skimp. It's the holidays and this is great. This is a great, great recipe. This is not intended to be light. It is not intended to be gluten-free. You can sure try, but let's use whole ingredients if you can. So we've mixed that in, okay? And now I'm just gonna turn that off and we're gonna measure our flour. Now, I'm gonna show you how to measure flour and we're gonna talk about flour. This recipe uses cake flour, not all-purpose flour. Now the difference in cake flour and all-purpose flour and bread flour, you know, you see all of those on your grocery shelf, is the amount of protein in them. A cake flour has the least amount of protein in it, so it is extra, extra light and fluffy. All-purpose flour kind of has a medium amount of protein in it, so it's kind of all-purpose. That's why they call it that. You can kind of use it for a little bit of everything. Bread flour has more protein in it, which makes for chewier things like pizza dough and breads. You want there to be a little chew. This, we want there to be a nice, light, fine crumb, and that's why we're using cake flour. It comes generally in a box, not in your like paper bag, okay? So that's where you're gonna wanna look for it. Now, when you're measuring flour, well, let's back up the bus. I'll get my little measure cup here. When you're measuring flour, what you wanna do is you wanna take 1 spoon, and we're gonna do 3 cups. So here's my cup measure. You want to add it to your 1 cup. You don't wanna dig around in there for it because you're compacting it. And so you want it to be really nice and light, because if you compact it and dig your measure down inside there, then you're gonna have the wrong measurement of flour. It's gonna be too heavy on the flour. And then I tap, tap, tap to kind of lay it all down. Make sure that we're level. These are the little things, y'all, that are gonna make all the difference. If you're like, oh my goodness, my cake was too floury, or my cake was too whatever. I mean, whatever it is that you don't like, it may be a matter of how you've been measuring if your textures aren't quite right. So here we go again. That was our 1 cup. Here's our 2 cup. We want it to be nice and light. Unlike brown sugar, you know, brown sugar, we pack it, don't we? Pack it down, pack it down. Okay. And then we're taking our knife and we're going to tap it down, tap, 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 and then measure off. See how to do that? There's 2. So during the holiday season, I always have all of the flours, all of them in my pantry. And it's really important. You'll notice a difference. I almost always use cake flour in all my cakes, almost always. Of course, I always have all-purpose flour because when in doubt, I can use it. And I always have bread flour because of my pizza crust recipes and all that. So I do like to have a little bit of all of it. Like I said, especially during the holiday season when you're doing all of your baking. And you want to be sure to check everything to make sure that it's fresh. Old flour is not going to do the trick. It's not. It takes a little bit of extra time to measure it that way, but it matters, it matters, it matters. Okay, so there's our 3 cups of flour. And then to our 3 cups of flour, we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, not powder, soda. The soda works with the acid of that sour cream to give us a good little rise. And then, of course, because always in our sweet, we just have that little tiny bite of salt, just about 1/2 teaspoon or so. That's it. And we mix it into our flour, nice and light, so that's incorporated. And then we're going to start mixing it in a little bit at a time into our wet ingredients. When we come back, we're going to talk about how to prep our pan, our baking time, and we're going to make a simple syrup that we're going to pour all over this cake. I said it. We're going to pour a syrup all over this cake. This is Cooking Today. Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. We are baking my very favorite company pound cake. It is going to be like no other pound cake you've ever had. I mean, that's quite a claim, isn't it? It could be like another pound cake you've had, but you certainly need to try this one because there is some flavor in this. There is some flavor in this one that is going to knock your socks off. And then we pour a simple syrup over it. And these baking tips. A lot of people don't love a homemade cake like from scratch, so we end up going to the cake mix because there's just, they've taken a lot of the brain work out for you. But listen, I'm telling you, all you have to know is a few really important things, and you're gonna love your homemade cakes. And so some of it starts with our creaming of our sugar and our butter, measuring our flour well, making sure we have fresh ingredients, like all of those things matter. Room temperature ingredients. And then just taking your time to do this. Incorporate a little bit at a time, and then mix it. And then incorporate a little bit at a time, and then mix it. All of those things are what's going to make a big difference in your baking. So we have incorporated half of our flour mixture, nice and slow. We don't want to beat it to heck. We don't want to turn this up and, mix, mix, mix. Just enough that it's incorporated so that we don't develop any real gluten. Like I said, we want this to be nice and light. You are going to love the crumb on this cake. You're going to love, love, love how fine it is. It's got a texture like no other. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. That's why I held on to it for so long, but I'm sure glad to share it with you today. So we've mixed it. We're mixing in our other half of our flour. Now, you could totally leave it just like this. Put a little vanilla in it. It is absolutely delicious this way, but here are some of the kickers that make this cake so good. We are going to add some flavor in here that is so delicious. So we're going to do 1/2 teaspoons. Ready? 1/2 teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon. Good vanilla. this is the unmixed vanilla. We've made vanilla on here before. So this is the good stuff that cures nice and long and has developed really rich, sweet flavor. Then we have a couple of extracts. This is half a teaspoon of rum extract. It doesn't taste like rum. It basically smells like the beach. We love the beach, don't we? Especially in December. And then we have a half a teaspoon of butter extract. Y'all, these flavors are warm. They're just warm. And it's not going to taste like a pina colada, and it's not going to taste anything like that. But there's going to be this warmth and this sweetness that you're going to note and love. And your guests are going to go, what is that? And you're going to say, I'm not telling. Because this is going to be your secret weapon for hosting people. And then finally, a half of a teaspoon of coconut. So we have vanilla, rum, butter, and coconut flavorings. And then just on low, I'm going to incorporate that really well. And have you noticed we've done everything pretty much on low except for creaming our butter and our sugar. And that is very important. You don't want to whip it because it'll make your cakes tough. Okay, that's that. Now, I'm going to remove my shield. I have my oven preheated to 350, and a well preheated oven probably needs to be preheating for at least 30 minutes. Turning it on and then hearing it beep does not mean that it's completely preheated. You need to go a little bit longer than that so that you really have established good oven temp. Now, because we have all these ingredients we've incorporated, I always like to get my bowl scraper in there and give it a good stir. There's usually some stuff that's kind of left down in the bottom. You know how that goes. And we want to get that really stirred in well because we don't want to mess up our mix here because we've spent all this extra time making sure that everything is just right. Now, my other magic ingredient, or trick anyway, is Baker's Joy. They don't sponsor me, they don't sponsor this show, but it is the best stuff in the world. It is magical. It has flour spray, and so I use this as opposed to buttering, like oiling and flouring. You kind of get the same thing with this, and it's nice and gentle on your good quality pans. It doesn't leave that kind of brown baked on residue. It just comes off so nice and clean. So this is just at your grocery store in your baking aisle, and I give it a good spray around. And you want to spray over your sink and not over your floor because you will bite the dust when you're walking through there on Christmas Day with your pretty pound cake. Wouldn't that be heartbreaking? So, spray this very well. All we have to do is put our cake in our pan and then stick it in our oven for about 60 minutes. I start kind of looking at it at about 57 minutes. And I check it with a toothpick. Toothpick inserted in the middle, comes out clean, you're all set. We're gonna stick it in the oven. When we come back, we're gonna pour our simple syrup all over this cake. It's company pound cake for the holidays. This is Cooking Today. Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. We are just wrapping up company pound cake. It's on page 189 in my Love Welcome Serve cookbook. Y'all, you need to make it for your company. Take it to work, take it to your teacher's lounge, whatever, but you need to feed somebody this cake this season, and I would just really love to hear from you if everybody likes it, so you can, go to our Facebook page. But let me tell you, so we baked our cake until the toothpick test came out clean. Then we let it cool in our pan for 10 minutes. No longer, no less. And then we inverted it. And then with the pound cake, because you want this little crunchy, yummy top that it forms, this little layer that it forms, I invert it onto my hand, and then I gently meet up the bottom of it with the plate and turn it back over, because you want the top on the top. Does that make sense? Then we made a simple syrup that is so flavorful and warm. And all we did for simple syrup is 1 cup of sugar, a half a cup of water, and then I added in a teaspoon each of vanilla, rum, almond, and coconut. And then watch this. This cake, while it's warm, little bit at a time, we're just gonna drizzle. Drizzle, 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 tiniest bit at a time. Let it just soak down into your cake. You're gonna think, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm pouring all of this on there. Keep pouring. Keep pouring, keep pouring. You're gonna love this. And then allow this cake to cool completely. It is best room temperature. So much flavor, beautiful texture that you'll be so proud of. Your company is sure to love it. Happy holidays, everybody. This is Cooking Today.